Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to SeahawkTalk here on Salve Athletics Network. I'm your host, Andrew Pizzelli, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. Through Twitter, we are live every single day here on the Salve Athletics Network. Welcome to the show. Can't wait to get to our guests. Today we have Kevin Gilmartin, Sebastian Nordsey, and Craig O'Rourke II. We'll also speak with the producers, but until then, we want to remind you to keep your distance. That is Ed Habershaw with his rendition of Keep Your Distance by The Shake. Very appropriate song. We've seen coronavirus cases rising everywhere, so we're going to continue to remind everybody to keep their distance. Social distancing, hand washing, mask wearing. It sounds like we're a broken record, but it's because we are. And we're going to continue to remind everybody to do all of those simple things. I want to bring in the producers now, Joey Morelli and Mike DeFusco, to lead off today's program. Fellas, anything that you want to bring up here at the top of the show? Maybe we can bring up, we don't have anything Salve related to this to announce yet, but the governor today did announce a whole rash of coronavirus
we might as well
restrictions.
Start with this. So as we recall yesterday, they postponed the coronavirus meeting. I don't know what they call it. The thing that the governor does every Wednesday. And it was today. And so finally we can announce like what happened. So we're, instead of going to a full lockdown, because we don't want to do that, we're going to a 2-week pause, which is kind of goofy sounding, but it works. I think this is a good idea. Can I see? Let me zoom in. Nope, that just opens the tweet. Okay, so basically,
I can pull that up if we want to zoom.
I'm looking from my zoom in option, and here we go. Okay, there we go. Now we're zooming in on this woman.
Here, I got you, Joey.
Hold on. Okay. There you go. UK, you have it. Yeah. There we go. That's the real thing. So some things are still open. Mostly like elementary schools, childcare. I like they put personal services, and then I wouldn't know what that is, and so it's very clearly haircuts, which I think is funny. Limited, social gathering, indoor dining, retail, kind of the things you would expect, and then closed. In-person colleges, which I was kind of surprised. Offices, bars, recreational venues, bowling alleys for some reason specifically called out there. I don't know if there was a bowling alley that is it specifically in trouble. And then indoor sports facilities, gyms, and group fitness, and organized sports except for NCAA and professional sports, which is important to us. It's going into effect the 30th, which is next Monday. The Monday, Cyber Monday. For those of you who shop online, this goes into effect. Yeah,
and obviously, Salve had already. I think a lot of people kind of felt this could be something that was coming down the road, because I know Salve announced a change to the Thanksgiving travel plans. Initially, there was like 3 options. You could go home, come back. You could go home and stay home and do remote, or you could stay on campus and not travel until the end of the semester. Last week, they changed that to you either stay or you go. We haven't heard any official word yet. In-person colleges and universities closing on the 30th. We may get an announcement tomorrow that says that everybody's just encouraged to just travel home for Thanksgiving break. I'm not sure how a learning remotely while still on campus would work if we're full remote. A lot of moving parts. I'm sure we'll get an announcement tomorrow, or at least by Monday the latest on that.
I'll keep an eye on my email. We might get one today.
Yeah, and we'll bring you that breaking news if it comes.
Yeah.
most of our sports have ramped down or will be fully ramped down already by the time this goes into effect on the 30th, because most kids will be home already. Even the winter sports that we're, still trying to practice will pretty much have been ramped down, or we're planning to be ramped down by then anyways. Even though it says the NCAA is excluded from this, I think Salve, we were going to be ahead of this already. The governor spoke about keeping in person the things that are staying open, which is pre through 8 schools, is because of the tremendous amount of data that's about how important it is for kids that age to get in person learning and teaching and socialization. Kids older than that, high school kids, I think will be able to handle the year remotely, a year staying at home, and would be able to manage that sort of thing. I think developmentally they were really worried about that age range not having it, the K through 8, and so that's why.
Yeah.
And then also people who still have to work, you still need, if people have a 2-parent household or a 1-parent household where somebody's working, childcare is incredibly important to that. So, and obviously healthcare. Those are the things that were going to remain open. Social gatherings. I think the governor was already encouraging this stuff already. Obviously, a hard deadline of, hey, this period of time, we really need everybody to adhere to these things between the 30th and the 13th. But basically, your social gathering is your household. So if you live with 5 people, those are the 5 people you should be socializing with in any form or fashion. If you live with 10 people, those 10 people. If you live, it's just you and somebody else, that's it. That's your social circle. And obviously trying to, I think they said retail box stores, encouraging them really strict. If somebody doesn't have a mask, don't let them in. They're actually going to be distributing masks to some of these places. So I imagine, say a BJ's. If you try to come into BJ's and you don't have a mask, you're like, oh, I forgot it. I don't have one. They're going to be like, here you go. Put it on. Thank you for shopping. Or don't come in.
They shouldn't get that luxury.
True. But, hey, it's something there. It diminishes the amount of people who can use that as an excuse. Oh, you don't have a mask? Here you go. We got one. We got one for you. I don't know the quality of those masks. I imagine they work, but I don't think they're handing out N95s to people going into BJ's. They're going to be probably the surgical masks that you can get pretty in bulk.
It'll be BJ brand, BJ brand cloth masks. It'll be like the reject ones, like all the designs no one buys.
Well, no, it's going to be, BJ's likes to hand out, in Costco, they like to hand out samples. Now they're just handing out samples of masks. Here you go. Would you like to try our BJ's mask? No, there you go.
You can try, and you can keep it, because we don't want it back.
Yeah, sir, no, it's fine. You can hold on to that one. I have a really bad story about somebody who I saw sharing a mask. I'll save that for another day, because it was somebody who was on a job interview, shared a mask. It's just we don't have the time now to get into it, but we'll tease that really bad mask story for another day. So before we move on, any thoughts from you guys on this, or any happy news?
Well, I was gonna say at least the barber shops are still open. So I was gonna say, Pez, are you gonna get a haircut? You think in between those 2 weeks, or are we're gonna let it grow out throughout the keep you warm in the winter? Letting it go. That's what I like to hear.
This is where we're at right now, and I'm hoping, fingers are still crossed for freezing cold lacrosse games in February. Maybe that's when I'll get this baby cut. If not, let it grow, let it grow, let it grow.
I agree. I do have one story regarding the cold, but I think I'll tease it and save that one for the end. And it's a bit of happy news, so we'll bring that to you after. I see we're getting close to that 3:10 mark, so I'll tease that now, and we'll bring that in.
Yeah, we always say, you want the good news or the bad news first? Always the bad news. Let's end on the good news.
We'll smack you on the head with the bad news now.
We do good news, bad news, good news. Sandwich.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. The news sandwich. So. Yeah, this is the biggest. I mean, we couldn't ignore this. Is the biggest story, and if we get any Salve updates on this, we'll be sure to bring those to you at some point in the program. So yeah, fellas, if anything does break, go ahead and drop that there in our chat throughout the show. But I'm gonna let you guys get behind the scenes and help produce the show, and we'll talk to you again later.
All right.
All right. That's Joey Morelli and Mike DeFusco, the producers here on Seahawk Talk. We're going to move now to our first guest, Kevin Gilmartin, the head coach of our football team. Gil, how are we?
I'm good. I'm a little confused though because they just talked about you put the bad news at the beginning and then the good news at the end, and I noticed I'm at the beginning of the show. And so am I the bad part of the show? I'm kind of a little upset right now.
No. This is we need relief, Kevin,
This is the
right? So we
transition?
this is the transition. Yeah.
Okay.
So we led with bad news, and now we go to Kevin. I guess honestly, maybe this puts Sebastian kind of in the bad space. He's sandwiched in the middle. But no, we love all of our guests. So, Kevin, I mean, you guys have wrapped up. So I guess we have some. I guess we'll call it. This is the highlights. This is what we have for highlights for you from the fall. Obviously, no games. But you guys were able to practice. You're able to get out there and at least get some work in preparation for a season, hopefully. So I'm just gonna let the tape roll. And we'll let you kind of talk us through what you were able to do this fall.
Yeah, absolutely. This was actually producer Michael DeFusco came down to practice. I guess that was back in end of October. Actually, Friday, October 23rd was when he came down. He came in for the 7:00 session. At this point in time, we had two sessions. We had a 7:00 session and an 8:30 session. Because because of just the sheer numbers of the team, we couldn't have the entire team out for practice. And so he was down for the 7:00 session. He said he couldn't stay for the 8:30 session, that he had class, but I'm not sure if he did or not. I think he just wanted to leave. It was getting cold for him at that point in time, So I'm going to call him out, knowing that he's not on it right now. So he can't rebuttal my statement right there. But no, I think it was definitely a great year. You can see from what they're wearing, like the players, are wearing their masks on their helmets and everything. They're trying to be, safe for one another, to be honest. And you can see like they have the gaiters up over the face masks and everything. It actually was surprising. It didn't really affect their vision as much. So it was kind of cool. And the other thing that you can kind of tell that they're all doing is that they're all wearing long sleeves and gloves. And that just prevented skin contact, And so we weren't sure if that really, nobody knows exactly how COVID is spreading or anything like that, but is it skin, is through the breath? But they were able to. We said that okay, if everybody wears the the long sleeves and the gloves, as we show that Jake Kelleher is not wearing his gloves right there. But they were taking care of one another, and I thought that was pretty cool. Is that the whole time it wasn't a matter of like, am I doing this for my safety? It was doing it for one another's safety, and I think that was pretty cool. Is that they wanted to take care of one another. During this entire practice, we went about 8 to 10 weeks. There was we didn't have one positive COVID test, because they didn't want to be the one to become positive and shut their teammates down. And I think that was kind of awesome, is that they were taking care of their brothers and sisters out there on the field and making sure. So not only on the field wearing the gloves and the long sleeves, but off the field during those days, they were doing the right thing and they were taking care of one another. And I think that's pretty cool, because it's like they know that this team is more than themselves, and so they were all trying to take care of everybody. I think that's the coolest thing about a team that becomes a family, and the Salve football family is definitely a part of that. So I was definitely proud of them for that, because there was 0 cases from the start of classes until we finished practices. Now, of course, practice ends, and now all of a sudden we have a couple of positives. We got one house in quarantine. They're actually one house is in quarantine until the day after Thanksgiving, and so they're going to be kicking up Thanksgiving dinner at their house. I asked them who's cooking, and Ian Alapinski was like, I have to cook the Thanksgiving dinner, and none of the other guys can cook. So he's cooking Thanksgiving dinner for 4 other guys. So it should be interesting. Hopefully we get some video footage of that. But then Stefan Etienne, he's also in quarantine for the 2 weeks as well. But he's in a separate house, but at the same time it happens, and that's the life that we're in right now. But you can see, like, during the practice, they were taking care of one another. And I think that's the great thing. We did a ton of things during the season. I mean, we defensively, we were 4 down, we were 3 down, we were in a bare front. They were practicing everything. So they were able to get everything done. Offensively, we put the entire playbook back in, and we were running all different kinds of tempos and motions and shifts, and so the entire playbook went in. All the freshmen were catching up towards the end, right there on that play there. Yeah, Tristan Perez, start of the camp, his head was gonna. We didn't really have a camp. We had a practice in the fall. At the start of it, his head was going to explode from the playbook. But then towards the end, he started to figure everything out. And I think everybody's at that spot now where they know the playbook inside and out on both sides of the ball. And that's what a solid 10 weeks of practice took care of. The tough thing is that during those 8 to 10 weeks, they were going against the same guys, and like I said, how we split into 2 practices, 7 and 8:30. And so they weren't even seeing the guys from the 8:30 group. They were always practicing against the same group just because of, the pods and the placements and where everybody's classes were. So we had to keep them apart the entire time. And so if you're going against the same people the entire time, it usually gets stale. It almost feels like Groundhog Day. You're doing the same thing over and over again. I thought what was really cool this year was that these guys were excited. They came to play every day. And, it was awesome to see that they just wanted to be outside playing football, running around, and being a part of it. They took the entire fall in stride that, hey, there's going to be a lot of different things going on where we're not sure, what's open, what's closed, what's going to affect everything. But they just came out and played, and they controlled what they could control. I think that's a big thing that we always talk about with football and sports and life is don't worry about the outside things. Just care about the things that you can control. And they definitely did that this year. And that was awesome. Did I really just talk for 5.5 minutes right there?
You did.
Holy cow. That's embarrassing and impressive, I guess, at the same time. But the biggest thing I wanted to say was that, I appreciate everything that they did this fall and taking care of one another and, the team. And because of that, the Salve community, because if they did it poorly, and then all of a sudden it would have spread throughout the entire football team. And then when you have 100+ guys, that would have spread through the campus. And so I'm really proud of them for that and how much they cared about it and how safe they were. And because of that, we got a full season of practice in, and they made us a better football team this fall. And not only that, but they were excited to come and practice and do it. And it was awesome.
Yeah, in a way, isn't that twofold? There's, back in, I think it was early September, when I think it was Syracuse had a big incident with a massive gathering of people, and their president put out a letter like, everybody's expecting us to fail. Prove them wrong. So taking up that challenge of, let's not be the reason why a campus closes or the problem. Like this is our challenge this year. This is what we're going to overcome. And secondly, the benefit of mentally going through all this, the intangibles of the mental toughness side, that has to be a tremendous benefit now down the road, if and whenever games get played for this group of athletes. I talked to Coach Walsh about this yesterday. It won't last for forever, right? Because there'll be kids who just won't have gone through this with the team. But for this group of athletes, for the next 1, 2, maybe 3 years, they're going to have a tremendous amount of things to draw upon for motivation. Like, guys, we know what it's like to not have a season. And to have to fight through all this stuff. The intangibles that, it's like the silver lining here are tremendous, right?
No, it's you found them come together so much and take care of one another and be smart with one another and work together and like I'm sure there were some low moments of the roller coaster, but I didn't hear it because they were so taking care of one another. I even saw like even in the O-line, D-line, like if they were doing drills, I saw them talking to one another, like Pete Noonan's going against a freshman and he's like, hey, if you do this with your hands, Pete Noonan being an offensive lineman and a freshman defensive lineman, he's like, hey, you can get yourself better. And so not only were they competing against one another, but they were helping one another the whole time. And the same thing went the other way. I saw Bobby D. Portier helping a freshman offensive lineman, and it's kind of like, they were so excited about being out there on the field, during this debacle of a 2020, that they appreciated being out there. And because of that, they took care of one another. They helped one another. They were excited. They flew around. And at the same time, they did it off the field as well. And that brings them all together. And so, no, there's no doubt about it that these guys are going to be locked in together, throughout the next couple of seasons. And plus, 30 years from now, they're going to be talking to each other on the phone and they're like, remember when we went through COVID 2020? and it's an amazing story.
Yeah. Kevin, we won't have a show next Thursday because it's Thanksgiving, but
Mhm.
wanted to get your thoughts on, obviously Thanksgiving football is a big thing. Some of us, had the pleasure of getting to play, whether it's the night before, that's some tradition somewhere else. There's also, playing that day. Any memories that stick out to you from Thanksgiving football, whether it's watching it with the family, whether it's playing it in the backyard, whether it's as an athlete playing those games on those days, any Thanksgiving football notes from you?
We on Long Island we didn't have Thanksgiving football, but I've been to many high school games. But at the same time, my family would always get together when we were grown up, and up until this year, we always got together. We always have about 40 people at our Thanksgivings, and right after dinner, before dessert, me and my cousin Mike next door would always compete against my cousin Rich next door and my brother Michael, and we'd always play a 2-on-2 tackle. I was the youngest. We'd be out on the field, out on the street for probably about an hour and a half, running around like four lunatics, and that was always the most fun. And I can say that me and Mike Nixoff, we lost every year except for the last one, and then we won the last one, and then the next year they didn't want to play us anymore. And so I think that's when we get over the hump, and so we still hold the belt. That's the thing that I'm proud of. Mm-hmm.
Did I hear you right there? You say tackle on the street, like
we
pavement?
were a little messed up sometimes, we weren't afraid to put ourselves out there.
I think this explains a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kevin, always great catching up with you. Hope you're able to have a healthy and safe Thanksgiving. So we'll talk to you in about 2 weeks. So take it easy until then.
Absolutely. Enjoy the holidays.
Thank you. That's Kevin Gilmartin, the head coach of our football team, joining us here on Seahawk Talk. We're going to go now to the head coach of our women's volleyball team, Sebastian Nordzi. Seabass, how we doing?
I'm doing well, Pez. How are you?
Good. See, we had the bad news. We got Kevin to kind of transition to us, and now we go to just like full on the best part, the middle part. You're the cream in this Oreo, okay?
That's always the best part. That's always the ones that people choose right away.
Talk about, I know you've been talking a lot about prepping for the winter and delving in and taking the time to figure out what you want to do with your team to prepare them for this winter break and things. How has that process been going, and what have you learned in the last week about how you can prepare?
Yeah, so it's been going pretty well. I've been just, steadily working on things every single day. In terms of getting the girls ready, the girls have been just keeping in contact with me. We've actually had a food drive hosted by Salve Sac, and they all pitched in to grab cans of food for people who needed a little bit more. So they've been busy doing that, busy planning out what they're going to do during Thanksgiving and in terms of remote classes. And then I've been just slowly in the office, working on the fundraiser, working on just improving daily, just throughout the whole entire process.
I wanted to ask you kind of an interesting question. We haven't really talked too much about this sort of stuff, but what in your, this is kind of a general volleyball question. What's the hardest position in your mind to play in volleyball? I'm sure they all come with difficulties, but is there one that stands out like that's probably the most challenging position to be in?
Yeah, so it's definitely not outside hitter. That's the position I played when I was youngest, and then that's the position I love to coach the most because I have familiarity with it. But it's oftentimes you get to pass, play all 6 rotations, you get to hit all the out-of-system balls. So a lot of the attention goes to the outside hitters, which a lot of people love and a lot of people make it do. It's kind of like the wide receiver of a football team. Everyone sees, oh, they made a giant play. That's awesome. But then you get certain positions like the middle position, the libero position, and sometimes the setter position, which is more of like the in the trenches lineman type stuff, where they do dirty work, but they don't really get the appreciation of what they do. So in terms of difficulty, I think offensively, it would have to be the middle hitter position because not only are you blocking and transitioning off the net, but you're expected to score at a high percentage and run a quick tempo offense every single time. It's hard work. It's gritty. You don't always get set. You always have to do something. but it's very rewarding when you do get that nice block or that awesome kill with one-on-one blocker. So I would say in terms of difficulty, the middle hitter position, but of course they all have their differences. Like setting, you have to have a very high volleyball IQ to run an offense. You have to work on your hands a bunch because you're touching every second ball. And libero, you just have to be gritty, hardworking, and fearless because a ball is coming at you pretty fast and you're kind of expected to get that ball up in the air.
Yeah, you kind of answered the next part. I'm glad you made the offensive line comparison because that's what I was going to say. Who's the offensive lineman then of the volleyball team? Kind of the same thing is, what's the most underrated position? Or does it depend on grades? Like if you have a libero that can throw themselves all over the floor and, there's no stat to say number of crazy saves they make. But is that a position that gets maybe undervalued or underrated?
Yeah, so the libero position is actually kind of like I see the Celtics jersey. It's you get the Tommy points with the libero position. You don't necessarily see those plays in the stat sheet, but if you're a libero and you're working hard and you get a ball up out of the stands or wherever, like that has amazing value to it. I think, in my personal opinion, and I can argue this forever with any coach, but the middle hitter is also one of the most undervalued position because of all the things I've talked about. Like if you have a middle hitter who can't close blocks very well, all of a sudden your defense is in shambles because they don't know where to play, or the offense has, on the other side of the net, has full range to attack. But at the same time, they also need to be a scoring option because if you don't have a middle who's a scoring option and you just run a pin-to-pin offense, you can do that, but it just makes it so much easier for the opposing defense to stop you. So if you have a middle who can run in all across the net at different tempos, different speeds, and be a factor scoring, now all of a sudden defenses need a key on that, blockers need a key on them, and that just makes the outside hitter's job a whole lot easier. And trust me, when you have a great middle playing alongside you, outside hitters, they have the biggest smile on their faces because they just have one blocker, a whole entire court, and they could just go up and rip away. So that's why I always try to tell my outside hitters, hey, if you get a great swing, make sure you thank either your setter who made that great set, the middle who pulled a blocker, or the passer who got that ball to one of those players to get you the ball, right? You may be the star right now, but people had to work to get that done for you.
Yeah. As an outside hitter yourself, who were any? You play with any great middles in your time?
Yeah, I played with a bunch of great middles at the University of Rhode Island, and then high school I played with the All-State middle, the Player of the Year, who was a middle, and he was a guy who was shorter than me, so everyone looked at him as a middle, and he's like, this guy's like 5'10", he's not going to do anything against us, but he would jump really high, and he had a great vision for the court, so he would just crack the ball over the place, and everyone's like, that 5'10" guy did that to us. We're just like, yep, he's our weapon.
Yeah. Last thing, Sebastian, because like I said to Kevin, we don't have a show next Thursday, so we won't get to talk to you for 2 weeks. But anything in particular about Thanksgiving? Any Thanksgiving memories that stick out to you? For you, was it Thanksgiving volleyball? Get the family outside, set up a net.
It's a little too cold for that. No, but in terms of Thanksgiving, so my parents are actually not American. They're from the Netherlands. So it was kind of a weirder transition for us to get into the Thanksgiving type of mood. So we've always tried different things. We would go to our neighbor's house when I was younger, and it was just classic walkover. Then, we'd have dinner, the drinks would start happening, and the piano would start playing. And once the piano started playing, I was like, ooh, okay, mom's singing right now. I'm going to walk home. And I was able to do that because it was a 2-minute walk. Then as we got older, we started going to our other friend's house. And that was, awesome cook. They're food people. The main cook was actually a great chef in Newport. I forgot what restaurant, but he would take care of all the turkey and the sides. And those meals were just always awesome. And they had this big dining room, which for whatever reason wasn't big enough. So you would sit down at this giant table and you would still not have elbow room because so many people wanted to come over to taste this guy's food and just to enjoy the atmosphere of everyone who was there. So Thanksgiving has always been fun for me. It's not exactly my favorite holiday, but it's definitely a holiday that I do appreciate. I do love spending time with family, friends, whoever else. And even though it's going to be a little toned down this year because of everything that's happening in the world, I am excited to sit down and have a meal with, people that I care about.
Yeah. I think it's the simplest holiday. That's why I like it, because it's, you don't have to worry about buying gifts. You don't have to worry about setting up, decorating a house or an apartment or anything. It's just, hey, come over, eat, drink, be merry, have a good time, relax, gorge, eat as much food, pass out on a couch. Like it's as simple as it can get. And so what's not to love, right?
And that's why you have Friendsgivings all over the place because
Yep.
it's so easy. Bring a dish, let's hang out.
Yeah. So great. Well, Sebastian, good to see you. We'll catch up with you again in 2 weeks. So hope you have a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you then.
Awesome. You too, Pez. Take care.
All right, take it easy now. That's Sebastian Nordsey, the head coach of our women's volleyball team. We're going to go now to the head coach of our men's soccer team to round out today's program, Craig O'Rourke II. Craig, how are we doing?
Good as always, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good. You brought up in our little pre-show talk about how the last two seasons, 2018 and 2019 for your team, were the highest scoring in program history, or at least two of the highest scoring seasons in your program's history. What goes into that? Does it come down to just having talent, or can you by scheme orchestrate, hey, we're going to score a lot of goals? We might give up a lot too, but you could strategize that if you wanted.
They are the two highest scoring. The previous school record was 51 goals in a season, so we broke that in 2018 with 62, and then the second highest scoring season in program history is 2019 with 60. It starts with talent. If you don't have the talent, you're not going to do much in the college game. Soccer historically and the world over is not a high scoring sport. The rarest thing in the game that everyone who wears the title of head men's soccer coach will trade their left and or right and or both arms for is a pure goal scorer. And I was fortunate enough in 2018 to have not one but two and potentially even three on the roster in Igo, Stevenson, and then Ogiano, who in 18 really couldn't get on the field because of the talent of the upperclassmen. And then when they both left after the 2018 season, Ogiano got his chance in the 2019 season, and he was the talisman point striker that a lot of our scoring flowed through. In terms of scheme, soccer, like so many sports, basketball, lacrosse, hockey, it is a possession-based sport. It's very difficult to score when you don't have the ball and or puck. So I think part of our success in terms of our ability to put the ball in the net isn't just the talent, but is the overall offensive mindset that we have and the predication of what we consider to be one of the guiding principles of the program is three simple little words: keep the ball. And our entire structure and training and everything that we try to do leading up to match day is predicated on that. We want to take care of the ball, maintain the possession, swing it around, go east-west as much as we go north-south, and do everything with purpose. As I just told a recruit yesterday, people ask us, are we a possession-based system? I say, no, we're not. We're an extremely possession-based system. Everything we do is predicated on those three words: keep the ball. And in film analysis, we will look at each and every touch, each and every pass, each and every decision on ball to see whether or not we are ultimately playing as a cohesive unit that is adhering to that guiding principle of keeping the ball across all 3/3 of the field, mindful of both time and score. So it's getting the talent, effective recruiting, making sure we do bring in the right players who have that mindset. One of the things, or two of the things that we look for, is one, decision making on ball, what they do. Two, their off the ball movement, both in terms of adding to the offensive shape and adding to the defensive shape. And then I know I said two things, but the third thing, their overall soccer IQ and their ability to understand a possession-based system across all 3/3 of the field. And again, mindful of time and score. I got something on my face.
Yeah, you have eyebrows.
Yeah, is it just me, or does that eyebrow look really dark?
Maybe. Why, you trying to pencil in the hair? Are
No,
you gonna Sharpie your head? Is that you're
no, it's
experimenting
just
here?
that eyebrow looks really dark, or maybe that's just the resolution of my
I think it
camera.
might be the camera.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, talent, and an offensive scheme that wants to keep the ball and get us into dangerous situations to score more goals. So
Yeah. In a
that's
situation
kind of
where you have, like you said, you were lucky maybe to have three guys who were finishers, scorers. You also want to make sure that you're running a system that allows those three guys to work together, not just say like, "Oh, well, you're our striker for this 20 minutes and then hey, you drop back and you get to be our striker for like 20 minutes." You want to find a way to make them all work together, right? To get the most out of having three.
well, yeah. The three were never on the field at the same time simply because they were all strikers, and in both 18 and 19 we ran tandem strikers. Only two were ever on the field. But hitting on what you're talking about, it was predicated on somewhat of a front three. Both those teams had Evan McDonald, our uh, All-American from last season, sitting in that attacking center mid role and pulling the strings. And in the system that we execute out of, playing a tactical formation of a 3-4-1-2, we win at teams not with a front three or a front four or a front five, but we literally pumped like 6 and 7 guys forward into that attacking third. It was predominantly predicated on a target striker working in tandem with an underneath striker, an attacking center mid who was given permission and free reign and free license to go wherever he wanted on the field. And Evan would drop back into the defensive third. He would go to the goal line to get touches if he needed to. The wing backs both played incredibly high up the field. They both gained the attacking third. Their job was to get the goal line, to make goalkeepers seal themselves to the post. And then we assigned one of the two holding mids the box-to-box role. Last year it was Ventura. The season before that it was O'Donnell, both of whom played the role brilliantly for us, recognizing their role in the defensive shape, but they also had to get forward and commit to gaining the opponent's penalty box and becoming that dynamic element through the middle. And then the sitter, the other holding mid, whose job is not to press forward and not to get into the attacking third. There were games where we had to put the brakes on those players. 2019, it was Noah Medeiros. Before him, it was kind of a tandem role for both Richie Lester and Nolan Marino. Their job is to sit at the top of the circle and be the pivot for our east-west play when we're changing our point of attack. But there were times that, especially with Noah, they wanted to creep forward and contribute. So the attacking shape would be 6, 7 guys, not just that front three, although the front three were the focal point, particularly in the 2018 season, the record-setting season with 62 goals. In that year, Igo was second in the conference in goals, second in the conference assists, and first in points. Emac was top 5 in points, as was Owen Stevenson, top 5 in points. I think Donnie was second in goals. Owen was third in goals. Emac was first in assists. Donnie was second in assists. And then Donnie was first in points. I think Owen Stevenson was third in points. And Evan McDonald was fourth in points. So we had 3 of the top 4 scorers in the conference that season. And when you're just pumping that much offense forward and putting the ball in the opponent's net that much, hey, you're in position to win a lot of games. And luckily that year we did.
Yeah. I have the pleasure of calling and seeing a great many of those games that were at home with both of those teams. Tremendously offensively talented teams. A lot of incredible goals. We could spend a whole show going over the list of those goals. I know you've said there's been some debate over what are the best goals from those seasons, and maybe I could effort putting together a highlight reel of that, so we have something to actually break down rather than talk about it. But one of the guys that you brought up was Jacob Guerre, who was in on a number of those.
Yeah.
And we did show a video of one of his goals last week against Nichols. For a guy like that, what is it that makes him so effective, so good? To have cropped up so often, and not just say the fact that he scores goals, but does so in a I don't want to say like be bland and say incredible way. But like that Nichols goal, that's a professional level goal. What is it that allows him to be that successful?
Well, G, which is his team nickname, Jacob Guerre, he goes by the nickname of G. Honestly, he is nothing short of a blessing. He's currently a co-captain for the roster along with Casey Kelly. He's played almost every position for us at this point, although I haven't thrown in the net, and I don't think he's spent any minutes at center back. We tend to throw Hilby there. But one, he has the soccer IQ. He understands the game. Two, he has the technical skill set and gifts. I mean, he might probably has the best touch on roster right now. And throughout his career, now as a senior, even when he was a freshman and sophomore, he was probably top 5 for touch. In soccer is interesting. It's not like lacrosse or very much American football, which is probably on the spectrum of sports, the exact opposite end from soccer. American football is coached and trained and regimented down to almost the split second, where the quarterback drops back and the ball's in the air to the receiver before the receiver's head's even gone around. And that's accomplished through the micromanagement of the sport at the coaching level. Whereas soccer doesn't have that. Soccer in some ways is as much art as it is science. And Jacob Guerra is an artist. I mean, in the essence of what a soccer player can be and what every head coach like myself hopes to find in recruiting, Guerra is an artist. And I was fortunate enough to recognize that early on in the recruitment process when I went after him after seeing him play for a Southeast soccer club in Connecticut. He has all of the tools and all of the ability to be one of the best players in program history and be mentioned alongside the likes of an Elster, an Igo, a McDonald, and his roommate and co-captain Kelly, the 4 All-Americans. Jacob isn't just a goal scorer in the fact that he can put the ball in the net, although he does have that facet. He's also a playmaker. And in 18 and 19, a lot of his minutes came operating off the width, and he started for the vast majority of the 2019 season as a wingback. And with the graduation of the aforementioned Evan McDonald, Jacob will now be given the opportunity and assigned the role of pulling the strings and playing through the middle as our attacking center mid. And in that role, he has the ability not only to create the scoring chances for many of his teammates, but also to potentially be the one applying the finishing touch. I think he can be not only a great goal scorer, but also a finisher. And a lot of people use those two terms synonymously, and they're really not. A goal scorer who strikes the ball or shoots the ball is probably doing so with his laces in a manner of lashing the ball. Finishers tend to favor the surface of the inside of their boot because they're placing more of their shots into where the keeper is not. And, soccer in its essence is an extremely simple game. Score more than your opponent, you win. And it is said in such a manner that one is led to believe that it is incredibly just that easy. But there are incredibly soccer-rich nations that have, lineages and prolific history with the game who have never won the World Cup. Right away, the Netherlands jumps to mind, and they produced arguably one of the 5 greatest players in the history of soccer in Johan Cruyff. And the Netherlands has never won the World Cup. So if the game is so simple that it simply boils down to scoring more than your opponent, how are these incredibly soccer-rich nations, and God forbid I say this, but these incredibly talented and historical clubs like Arsenal, who have never won the European Cup? And the reason for that is, soccer is so prolific, so widespread, and played on every continent, by every country, every civilized and uncivilized culture in the world, that the level of competition is so dramatically widespread that it is just difficult to do that, to put the ball in the net, to actually be able to score prolifically and proficiently. And going back to Guerra, it's brilliant to have someone like Jacob Guerra. And over the course of these last 2 seasons, 18 and 19, as his playing time has increased, as his role has increased, starting on 18 and 19, you find him factoring into all of these brilliant goals. And like the one you're talking about in the 2018 season, that regular season finale on Topa against Nichols, the goal that he struck, it was a throw-in from Julian. The targeted player for us was actually Jimmy Dalton, who was making an off the ball movement. We talked about the need for off the ball movement, a curl run from the far flank. He dragged the center back with him. The center back elevated, won the first touch, and tried to clear the ball with his head. And in so doing, he kind of popped it straight up. And this is something that, for those of us on the roster, we know Guerra will take a bag of balls out and practice this technique. And you wonder why someone sits there and practices side volleys from distance over and over and over again, hitting, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 shots like this. And the reason he does is such that in the event that this exact situation produces itself in match and he finds himself with the opportunity to strike a ball like this, he's able to do so with the technical precision to not only produce a quality chance, but quite frankly, as you called it, hit a laser right into the back and upper 90. And it is, to this day, in 14 years at Salve, I would probably consider it to be the best technical goal that I've ever seen a Salve Regina player score. I mean, it was something, as you said, it's not only professional quality, but there are people the world over making their full-time living at the sport as professional footballers who cannot do that. That is a very, very unique and extremely difficult skill to master and ever implement into a game.
So like you said, I mean, breaking it down to it's a simple thing. It's like practice makes perfect. If you're going to work on that and it shows up, you're not trying to freelance and say, oh, let me just try and kick this over my head or try something crazy. No, he's worked on it. It's a skill. He has it.
Yeah, it's a skill. It's in his toolbox, and he's only worked on it. But I mean, as you saw that day, he perfected it. I mean, that was an absolute lashing of the ball, and God bless the Nichols defense, because they thought they had repelled the initial attack, and Guerra just made them pay for a loose ball at the top of the box.
Yeah. Last thing here, Craig. You did bring up Arsenal, so you opened the door. Evidently, Luis and Ceballos got into a scuffle during a little bit of a training match. Is there some fraying at the corners here with Arsenal? Some frustration?
It's interesting because this would be the second time that Danny Ceballos, who's not Arsenal property, he's wearing the Arsenal kit this year, but he's on a season-long loan from Real Madrid. This will be the second time this year that he's got into a scuffle. The first one was with a young Arsenal striker, Eddie Nketiah, in a pre-match warm-up, and now he's gotten into it with David Luiz. Luiz is a little bit of a towering and imposing figure, so frankly, of everybody on the Arsenal roster, he might be the last one that I would try to get into a fight with. No, Ceballos, I think, is a very talented central midfield player. If we're going to put all that firepower on the periphery of our team with Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe, Nketiah, whatnot, as we talked about with Guerra and McDonald, you need someone in the middle to pull the strings and play the penetrating balls into the forward space for your wingers and strikers to run onto. And I think Dani Ceballos is that for us, more so than a Granit Xhaka or an El Nene or any of the other people they have. The only person on our roster who could potentially do it better would be a Mesut Ozil, and unfortunately he has fallen out of favor with our head coach Arteta and hasn't been featured in Arsenal side now for something like 7-8 months. So I don't think Mesut Ozil is going to be stepping onto the pitch anytime soon. I don't know if it's fraying. I don't know if it's frustration. It's always tough to comment on these situations, not knowing the intricacies and what happened or the lead up. Luiz is Brazilian. Dani Ceballos is, I believe, Spanish or Portuguese. So they're from two different sections of the world, but Arsenal currently in 11th place in the English Premier League.
I was going to say, I know this.
Your producers are putting that up.
I know this. Smoke Leeds, and everything kind of starts to feel better. Lose to Leeds, might be some more scuffles.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting. You pronounce it lead. I call it lead because they'll do what they always do. They'll sink down the table like Lead United does. Leeds on Sunday. It's the next opponent up. We definitely need a result. We've lost 3 of our last 4, and I would like to say all by a goal, but as we both know, Aston Villa scored more than just 1 against us. Something that Steve Aston still hasn't let me live down yet. That's a big match for us. We need to get the result because then we have midweek Europa League. So we need to start securing 3 points in our Premiership matches.
All right. Well, Craig, I know I've told our other guests no show next Thursday because of Thanksgiving. However, we are sliding you into the Wednesday slot, and we spoke just about soccer here today, which means we will talk food next week in preparation for Thanksgiving. So gave you
Helicopter bounce
a
around
full
on Thursday, then I'm on Wednesday, then I'm back on Thursday. But no, let's put them back on Wednesday. Yeah, it's always good when I can just be the filler for sports information.
No, you're in high demand. People didn't
I'm
want to
like the
lose out
stuffing in the
on
turkey, just
people
cram them
didn't-
in there.
People
shove
did
'em
not
in
want
there,
to miss
and,
out on the CO2 experience because, we needed you on Thursdays. Then wait a minute. We got Christmas. We got Thanksgiving. We don't want to miss. People want to see you, Craig. They need you.
People want to see me. The eyebrow speaks volumes. It looks like it's darker. My God, I don't know what's going on here. I hope it's my resolution.
So anyway, we will speak to you on Wednesday ahead of
Wednesday.
Thanksgiving.
My 3:30 or 3:40.
Probably 3:30.
All right, I'll let my agent know. I might need longer.
All right, Craig. Until then, take it easy.
See ya.
All right, that's Craig O'Rourke II, the head coach of our men's soccer team. We'll take a very short break and be back with the producers to wrap up today's show. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Matt Messner, and I'm one of the 2020 football captains here at Salve Regina University. Ever since I've gotten to this program, we've been a winning team with a great culture, and with your donations, you could help us keep it that way. We're looking to upgrade our scoreboard, our press box, and new additions to the locker room, and any donations that you give us will help us to achieve our goals. Every donation we get from you counts, but if we get to $50,000, Coach Gill and the whole team will jump in the freezing cold ocean. Thank you, and go Seahawks.
As the new coach of Salve Regina, I would have never expected my first year to go like this. But despite previous expectations, Salve Volleyball has been thriving under current conditions, honing our craft in Rogers, and preparing for the future. We are in a new era of Salve Volleyball. New coaches, new faces mixed in with familiar faces, and new adjustments based off the global pandemic. Supporting Salve Volleyball now has a greater impact more than ever. Please consider making a gift to Salve Volleyball as we continue to grow as a program, and more importantly, as people. Thank you, and go Seahawks.
Hi, I'm Casey Kelly,
I'm Jay Blair.
and we're the 2020 men's soccer captains.
We are reaching out for your support.
The program has won back-to-back regular season titles and the 2019 Commonwealth Coast Conference Championship.
In addition, we've had 11 all-region selections and 4 All-American honorees.
With your support, we will be able to continue winning titles and hanging the hardware for all men's soccer alumni to see and be proud of.
The 2018 and 19 titles are just the beginning.
With all the hard work the team has been putting in this fall, Salve Regina men's soccer will be back in the hunt for the 2021 Commonwealth Coast Conference Championship.
Thank you for your time and support.
Go Seahawks.
All right, welcome back to Seahawk Talk. I'm your host, Andrew Pizzelli. Want to bring in the producers now, Joey Morelli and Mike DeFusco, to help close out today's show. Fellas, first off the top, like to get your thoughts on anything our guests had to say here today.
I like how Craig O'Rourke had said that Arsenal was almost like a pillar of English Premier League play, which they very well may be, but they're currently in 11th, so I had to fact check him really quick with that banner. Sorry about that, Coach O'Rourke.
Joey.
I thought it was cool listening to Coach Nordzy's how he experienced Thanksgiving, because his family wasn't from America, and that's always interesting to see how other people I guess adapt and work in their own culture, or they just kind of see what everyone else is doing, and you go to your friend's house and it becomes a nice tradition for them.
Yeah. Anything newsworthy to bring up here at the end of the show? I don't think we had any update on any Salve-related COVID news given the new restrictions. I have not seen anything come through the pipeline. But if not, any other news tidbits, information, things we want to bring here to close out the show.
Yeah, I'll quickly drop in here. Just tease the story a bit at the beginning. We know it's getting colder. Today it was like 32 degrees. So, the new Salve Regina's Nursing Honor Society is going to do a clothing drive, and there will be a basket, or multiple baskets in O'Hare, near the staircase. So if anyone on campus, students, faculty, and staff can all donate up until December 11th. So send those clothes in because there's a lot of as we know, people in Newport who are going to be needing those clothes in these coming months just to survive. So,
yeah, great. Joey, anything from you?
No, I honestly thought it was going to be a longer story, and we were just going to let Mike have the entire last 10 minutes. I thought you were going to tell us about like something with weather. Like I thought it was going to be a weather thing.
No, there is no meteor shower or anything today. Just a heartwarming story.
Yeah. We did have the Arctic blast.
Yes.
Blow through last night. So that's why it's a little chillier outside than it has been the last couple days. Though not surprisingly, let's see. You know what? I do have a funny thing. You know what? We promised to end on something, at least lighthearted and funny. And let me try and pull this
I might have
up
had something
here.
as well. So
It's kind of the weather made me think of it. If anybody's familiar with Jeff Foxworthy, he does, you might be a redneck if.
Man,
So he does.
Are you smarter than a fifth grader guy?
Yeah. So he did a whole bit of them about New Englanders. So I'm gonna read through this. This will give us a good chuckle. Since we started the show with the dour news, we'll end with this. If someone in a Home Depot store offers you assistance and they don't work there, you might live in New England. If you've worn shorts and a parka at the same time, you live in New England. If you've had a lengthy telephone conversation with someone who dialed the wrong number, you live in New England.
Yes,
if vacation means
so
going
real.
anywhere south of New York City for the weekend, you live in New England. If you measure distance in hours, you live in New England. If you know several people who have hit a deer more than once, you live in New England. If you have switched
to that one,
If you have switched from heat to AC in the same day and back again, you live in New England. If you can drive 75 miles per hour through 2 feet of snow during a raging blizzard without flinching, you live in New England. If you install security lights on your house and garage but leave both unlocked, you might live in New England. If you carry jumpers in your car and your wife knows how to use them, you live in New England. If you design your kid's Halloween costume to fit over a snowsuit, you might live in New England. If the speed limit on the highway is 55 and you're going 80 and everybody is passing you, you live in New England. If driving is better in the winter because the potholes are filled with snow, you live in New England. If you know all 4 seasons, almost winter, winter, still winter, and road construction, you live in New England. If you have more miles on your snowblower than your car, you live in New England. If you find 10 degrees a little chilly, you live in New England. And last, if there's a Dunkin' Donuts on every corner, you live in New England.
Wow.
So,
Except for Dunkin' Donuts, I thought all of that was like just common thing. Like the jumper cables. Like that's, yeah.
Well, we are from New England.
Yeah, exactly. I thought everyone had
that's just,
well, that's actually
normal to me as
technically
well.
that is the last thing. If you actually understand all of these and experience these, you live in New England. So, there we go. Little lightheartedness there to end the program. So
yeah,
fellas,
construction does wrap up on the Newport Pell Bridge, though. Just saying, there we got one thing going.
It comes back.
we were talking about the pause. Construction pauses on the Newport Pell Bridge. Let's be clear.
It's coming
Yeah,
back.
we got to get a verbiage
Let's
right.
be very clear. Season 5, whatever of the
More like
construction.
season 50.
Yeah. Sure. So, anyway, fellas, great work today, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow on Friday.
All right, we'll see you guys then.
All right, that's Joey Morelli and Mike DeFusco, the producers here on Seahawk Talk. I want to thank all of our guests here today. We had Kevin Gilmartin, Sebastian Nordzi, and Craig O'Rourke II. We are live every single day here on the Salve Athletics Network on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope through Twitter from 3 to 4 p.m. You can like, follow, and subscribe to all of those platforms to go back and rewatch any episode of the show. You can also subscribe to the Seahawk Talk podcast through Sounder FM or your favorite podcast app. That'll do it for today. We'll be back again tomorrow on Friday at 3 p.m. I am Andrew Pizzelli. Have a good night, everyone.